Throughout history there were a lot of people who changed Halloween month into Halloween years. This is the 5 most psychopathic people in history, but before we get started be sure to hit that subscribe button and tell me what other psychopaths you want to hear about. King of Belgium from 1865 to 1909, Leopold II is best known for ruling over the Congo Free State in Central Africa between 1885 and 1908. Under his brutal rule in Africa, millions of Congolese people died. The death toll estimates vary wildly, and the true number will never be known for sure, but low figures are still around 5 million while high figures sit near 20 million. Leopold's aim was to extract rubber and ivory from the Congo region. To do so, he used forced Congolese labor that toiled under threat of horrific abuse from Leopold's army, the Force Publique. The atrocities committed under his regime involved enslaving the native population, torture, maiming, and slaughter. For example, Leopold II imposed quotas on every man in his realm for the production of raw materials. Men who failed to meet their ivory and gold quota even once would face mutilation, with hands and feet being the most popular sites for amputation. If the man could not be caught, or if he needed both hands to work, Force Publique men would cut the hands off of his wife or children. International pressure over reports of abuse that had leaked out finally forced Leopold to change some of his policies and cede some of his land in 1908. Nevertheless, the Congo was still a Belgian colony and widespread atrocities persisted until the country's independence in 1960, when civil war and atrocities of other varieties began. Born in 1925, Pol Pot became the leader of the Khmer Rouge Party and Prime Minister of Cambodia from 1976 to 1979. He had held the position in a de facto role since mid-1975, but after coming into power officially, he imposed a fierce agrarian policy that led to the demise of about 25% of the Cambodian population. Pol Pot formed a communist peasant farming society, where all of Cambodia's cities were forcibly vacated, and the 2 million residents were forced to live and work in the countryside. Citizens were forced into slave labor. Work began from 4 a.m. and lasted until 10 p.m., overlooked by Khmer Rouge soldiers. Aside from slave labor, the citizens had to endure malnutrition. Workers were permitted one 180-gram tin of rice every 2 days, poor medical care, and executions if there were any infractions. Worst of all, the Khmer Rouge committed mass executions and burials in killing fields, carried out using hammers, axe handles, spades or sharpened bamboo sticks. The killings targeted all sorts of perceived threats and undesirables, including intellectuals, urban professionals, supposed foreign sympathizers, opponents of communism, and others. His regime came to an end in 1979 when the Vietnamese army invaded Cambodia and drove out Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. It is estimated that 2 million people died under his regime. Ivan IV of Russia, better known as Ivan the Terrible, was the Grand Prince of Moscow from 1533 to 1547, and the first Tsar of Russia from 1547 until his death in 1584. His lengthy reign was marked by the expansion of the Russian borders and its progression from being a medieval state to a powerful empire. Ivan had a peaceful reputation at the beginning, not receiving the sobriquet until later. Unfortunately, this early benevolence was actually marked by a number of atrocities due to his quest for expansion and his tendency to control the population via strict military rule. In 1570, for example, Ivan was under the impression that the elite of the city of Novgorod planned to defect to Poland, and led an army to stop them. His army subsequently built walls around the perimeter of the city to prevent escapees and rounded up civilians, torturing and killing between 500 and 1,000 of them in front of Ivan. In what may be an explanation for some of his actions as a bloodthirsty, paranoid ruler, Ivan supposedly suffered from mental illness. Such illness may or may not also explain his decision to beat his pregnant daughter-in-law for wearing immodest clothing, causing a miscarriage. When Ivan's son learned of his wife's miscarriage, he confronted his father, the two fought, and Ivan ended striking his own son in the head with a staff hard enough to kill him. Born in 1900, Heinrich Himmler was the second most powerful Nazi and possibly the most feared man in Nazi Germany. As the leader of the SS from 1929 to 1945, Himmler was responsible for conceiving and implementing the Holocaust. Himmler served as the head of the unified police forces in Germany and also held command of the German concentration camps, organizing and ensuring that the death trains ran on time and that the camps adhered to strict standards of murderous efficiency. His decisions and efforts helped cause the deaths of some 11 million people, including Jews, Poles, Russians, communists, and other groups deemed fit for death by the Nazis. As for his own personal cruelty amid the enormous wave of murder, it is said that Himmler's house contained furniture and books made from the bones and skins of his Jewish victims. He eventually committed suicide by poison in 1945 as the Nazi regime fell and his comrades were being taken prisoner or executed. Inspiration for the Countess Dracula and a woman deemed one of the most prolific serial killers of all time, Elizabeth Báthory specialized in the grotesque and purely vile. Born in 1560, she served as a countess in the Kingdom of Hungary but has since become known for her sadistic crimes. Though the number of her victims is disputed, it is believed that she was responsible for torturing and killing hundreds of girls between 1585 and 1610. Her execution methods were incredibly disturbing, as she would torture the girls while naked, forcing them to eat their own flesh, stabbing them with needles and burning parts of the face, genitalia and other bits of their flesh. Báthory would torture them for weeks, and many would starve or else be burned or frozen to death. It is also widely believed that she would bathe in their blood under the delusion that it would help her retain her youth. She was eventually caught in 1610, but her affluence and power shielded her from any serious consequences. She was simply forced to while away the remainder of her life in a small set of rooms while guards watched over her until her death in 1614. Thanks for watching.